Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and with the recent database wipe, many of you have probably lost your profits, and while you can now properly claim your ships again, which is great, you're also now having to rebuild your fortunes. Now what I wanted to do here was actually talk commodities trading again, and share a few best practices and kind of recommended routes, basically to help you build back up from 5,000 UEC to wherever you want to be. Now the first thing I wanted to address was picking commodities that are appropriate for your ship and your wallet size. Now for example, let's say you have 5,000 UEC. First things first, you're not going to spend it all in one run, right? I've tried to beat that into your heads at this point, so hopefully you know that by now. So let's say you're going to be spending 3,000 UEC on your first run. I know it's really tempting to say, let's go buy gold or diamonds or laranite. Small but valuable is the key, right? No, it's not. You need to figure out what's the best ratio between buying and selling and how much you can maximize your cargo space. For example, if you take that 3,000 SCU at 40 per unit, you could end up buying 75 units of laranite, which is less than 1 SCU. Now, if you sell that laranite at 70 per unit, you have a nice profit margin of 30 per unit. But based on the little quantity that you can actually carry with your price tag, and factoring in that 3,000 that you spent for it, you're only going to end up earning 2,250 in profit. Now, if you were doing the math and opted for barrel at 5 per unit, you could end up purchasing 625 units of that for 3,000 UEC, or about 7 SCU. Now, you can normally sell barrel at about 11, meaning 6 per unit profit, and subtracting the 3,000 that you spent on it, you're netting an actual 3,875 additional, or basically about 1.5 times what you earned running laranite. Now, that method ends up holding up as you scale, but you should always keep that in the back of your mind. Carrying as much cargo with as much profit margin is the smart move, and when you can start carrying full loads of laranite, great, but you do need to work kind of your capital up to be able to back up that type of transaction. Next up, it's important to know the progression of what you should be trading to make the most. In general, if you're just starting out, I personally look for barrel because it's the most stable commodity pricing that I've found, and generally you buy it at about 5 price from mining locations. It's easy to get, it has stable sell prices at Al-Azhar for about 11. I personally run barrel until I'm at about 50,000 UEC, but you can start to move to that move away from that probably about as soon as 25,000. Now, if you end up falling below 5,000 because of a crash or you're killed or something like that, you're not totally boned because hydrogen sells it to you for about 0.5 UEC per unit, but you can end up offloading that for about 1. So if you're really in need, look for a hydrogen because it can kind of help get you out of the hole. Now, once you're in that 25,000 to 50,000 club, that's when I start to branch out a little bit more. Picking up laranite from mining facilities and taking those to places like Al-Azhar. Med supplies are a really high cost item, but they have high profit as far as that type of run goes, where I pick up from places like Deacons on Yella and sell at the stations. You can sell med supplies at Grimhex for higher profits, but the market is a lot more volatile there. Now, if you want a good 30 per unit profit, Al-Azhar is almost always good for that. But you can sometimes buy med supplies at about 30 something and then sell for as high as 139 at Grimhex, though it's not always going to cooperate with you. Now, med supplies are great in smaller ships like Avengers because you can't really max out your profit margins in the larger ships using that, but the Avenger lets you really get the most bang for the buck, while using a ship like the Caterpillar is a poor choice because the supply is low and the cost is high, meaning you're never really going to fill it up. Now, once you really start bringing in the profits, that's when runs to Levski become really good, because taking a Caterpillar or a Starfarer, getting large quantities of laranite, diamond, gold, selling that back at places like Grimhex and Al-Azhar. There are some other tips that I wanted to share too. First off, don't buy at Al-Azhar. It's not worth it, because Al-Azhar sells for crappy prices and you're going to take a loss on those items. Watch the prices and jump if something does dip below market value, but never plan on that happening. Basically, you want to plan on buying at outposts and selling at stations. Another tip, if you have multiple ships, know that once you land, you can store your ship, and your cargo stays on that ship. So let's say that you have a freelancer that's full of laranite, and you land at Al-Azhar, and you see that they're only going to buy it from you at 50 instead of 70 something. Just store your ship. You can pull your cutlass and run missions or do other cargo runs while you wait for that price to change. You can basically sell from any ship that's stored at a station, at that particular station that you're at. So if you're at Al-Azhar, you can end up pulling from anything that's stored at Al-Azhar. But if you have something that's stored at Levski, you're not going to be able to sell at Al-Azhar. Now, speaking of Al-Azhar, if you're there, you can end up hopping around to the different pads and get different prices, though that's eventually going to be patched out. Now, if you're having a really hard time right now finding a good price, you can try a different server, though that's eventually going to be patched out as well. Third tip is fly with an escort if you're hurting for money. Not only can they help to fend off pesky players or like NPC pirates, but they can also help problem solve. So let's say you end up landing and you can't get back into your ship, they may be able to help kind of ferry you to a different point of entry on that ship, or maybe nudge it to make it a little bit easier, or maybe be a little bit more proactive and let you know where your landing looks a little bit sketchy and you may have problems. There's a lot of value to having someone help you when you don't have much wiggle room with your funds. The last thing that I wanted to do here was to share a few good routes with you all. For Laranite, I like to buy at places like Kudra Ore on Daymar or ArcCorp Mining Area 157 on Yella, and then head back to Alizar to sell it. For med supplies, I generally like to pick up at Deacons on Yella or Hicks on Sellen, and then sell that at Grimhex for maximum profit, or Alizar for more stable prices. For large volume trading, you're mostly limited to Levski, but look for good prices on things like astatine, gold, diamonds, and Laranite, and bring those back to Alizar. Now you can also hit up the drug lab on Yella and buy the two that aren't spirits and sell them for great profits at Grimhex. And lastly, don't forget the Forgotten Moon of Sellen. It's behind Crusader, so there's far fewer people going there, which means there's less players causing trouble, there's more supplies, and there's lower prices. So if you have questions on trading, let me know, because otherwise I really just hope this helps you guys out. You're going to see a lot more information on trading from me as we get more that we can do and as my knowledge personally builds. But for now, this is generally what I feel like works best, and I want to make sure that you all get the most out of this. So that's it for now. Hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful day, and take care.